Do not adjust your television. What you are about to experience is stranger than fiction.
Hey there, strangers. Welcome to Stranger Than Fiction. I hate you so much. Heidi is laughing at me. For those of you who missed our last episode, we talked about, in episode 2, apparently I did, my first take of Hey There, Strangers was really creepy. I guess I'm trying not to be creepy. I apologize. I am a little under the weather if you can hear that. But my name is Devin.
Hi, my name is Heidi.
And we are the duo behind not only Stranger Than Fiction, but also Channeling Spirits.
Yes. Channeling Spirits is our YouTube channel where we talk about a lot of different spooky things like why is Frankenstein's monster green? Or why does Dracula often have a cape?
And a lot of Ghostbuster stuff. Because people love Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And
okay.
For Stranger Than Fiction, what we do is we still like to explore the supernatural, or I would say the unnatural, maybe in this instance. Monsters. So we look into, what is the real story when there is a movie or there's a TV episode that says maybe based on true events. What are the actual true events? So for this one, since it's Shark Week, we're doing
Jaws,
a wonderful favorite. So before we get into that, though, I want to let you know. So you remember we were talking about Mothman last week?
Yes.
And how much I love Mothman.
It's like everywhere on my social media newsfeed now. It's really weird. Like
because
this girl I follow made Mothman slippers. Just how weird is that?
Mothman is the greatest. That's why.
No.
So you remember, though, I talked about how there was a book on like cryptids that I read in like 6th grade.
Yes.
I think I tracked it down.
What?
I think... And in kind of those weird, coincidental, or your phone is listening to you, somebody I follow on Twitter had posted like pictures of books that are like, did these
From
get
your
you?
Childhood?
Yeah, like did these like get you into like monsters? And one of them was called Monsters, Giants, and Little Men from Mars: An Unnatural History of the Americas.
Weird.
And I think that's the book.
Did you buy it?
I've ordered it on eBay.
Nice.
It hasn't come. I'm gonna have to. I mean, I think it'll be interesting, regardless. But I think that's my book.
Awesome.
So I'm really excited about that. But as we said also last week, we wanted maybe to let you pick one.
I didn't pick this, but I'm excited about it.
But because
I love sharks.
And
I love marine biology. I've often been known to get drunk and talk about marine biology and how I am a marine biologist, but I am not.
Yeah, there was definitely an instance where Heidi admitted to being a marine biologist, which was a stretch of the truth. But you're definitely very, very knowledgeable.
Oh, thank you.
For this, we watched Jaws, and it's kind of an annual tradition for us.
Yes, on the 4th of July.
So we like to get burgers. We like to watch Jaws. We think like that's like the thing to do.
It's very American.
When was the first time you saw Jaws?
Oh, as a kid, for sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you like remember it?
I do, and I remember being terrified to swim in the pool afterwards. Not the ocean, just the pool. Mainly at night. And I still to this day do not like getting in the pool at night.
And you love to swim.
I love to swim. But getting in the pool at night, for some reason, freaks me out. And it's also the reason why I haven't gotten my advanced scuba certification. Because you have to do a dive at night. And I am terrified to do that. Even though on our honeymoon, I definitely made you get in the ocean at night to swim with manta rays.
And you didn't bother telling me that there's probably sharks in those waters.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because that's when they hunt. And
yeah, so I'm glad I didn't know about that. I cannot remember when the first time I saw Jaws.
No?
I feel like 2 of the scariest movies when I was a kid, I mean, there were like a lot of movies are scary when you're a kid, but like 2 of them were Exorcist and Jaws.
You saw The Exorcist as a child?
No, that's what I'm saying is like, I remember being aware of them and being like so scared to ever even watch them.
Oh, for me it was The Mummy.
Like the 1999
Yeah,
Mummy?
like I wasn't allowed to watch that because I heard it was really scary.
Oh,
But then I
okay.
did watch it at a neighbor's house once, and I loved it.
Okay. I cannot remember when I first saw Jaws. I feel like I probably saw it on TV like when I was a teenager, when I was like bold enough and maybe in parts.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember the first time going to Universal Orlando.
Yeah.
It was in 2011. We went on the Jaws ride, and I was a teenager.
Your first time was 2011?
2001. I don't know why I said
It's like,
No.
what?
No, 2001.
I
So-
was working there then.
But I remember like going on that ride, and again, like I was a young teenager,
Mm-hmm.
but like that ride scared me.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Um,
yeah, same, but I like loved it.
It was there because it was very real. Like the
Mhm.
animatronics, from what I remember,
And there's fire.
yeah, like it was a
was.
very, very good ride. A good friend of mine was a skipper there, and I got to see.
Nice. Me
Um,
too.
Who'd you?
Taryn.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
All right. So let us know if you had a friend that was a skipper on Jaws. We'd
'Cause
love
we
to know.
both have one.
Yeah, apparently we know all sorts of skippers, but it was a really cool ride. I'm sad it's no longer around.
I know.
But we're not here
Silly
to talk.
wizarding
We're
world.
not here to talk about rides. We are here to talk about Jaws. So we're gonna go into our first section, my favorite section.
Heidi's dissection.
Okay, so I'd like to premise this by I love this movie. I've seen it hundreds of times. It's probably one of my favorite, but if you ask me to describe the plot,
Which is literally what I'm gonna do.
I may leave things out and I may forget. It's one of those movies that you've seen it so many times that you're just kind of like, you stop paying attention to it. So we just watched this last week, the week before.
On the 4th.
Yeah. So let's see how this goes. All right. So at the beginning, there's a beach party and this girl's like, ooh, come follow me. Let's go swimming at night.
Where are we going?
Swimming!
And this drunk guy's like, yeah, baby, let's do that because I want you.
Is
Even though-
she drunk? I don't remember.
I don't
I know
if
he
she's-
is.
Yeah, he's drunk.
I'm not drunk.
I don't know if she's drunk. I think she's just being a super big flirt. Also, though, sex on the beach, not a great idea. Just sand
Mm,
everywhere
yeah.
in places. Just
Well.
doesn't sound like a good time.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
All right, moving on. So they get in the water. Well, she takes off her clothes and she's like, woo, come in the water. And he's just like passes out on the beach because he's that far gone. So
Yeah.
he never even gets in the water. And she's swimming, having a great time. Also, again, who goes in the ocean at night?
well, that's why
terrifying.
that's why I was like, was she drunk or was she just like flirtatious?
I don't know, but again, I would not. No.
Anyway,
So all of a sudden, she like, ding, I
What
wish you
was
could have
that?
seen my
she like dung.
ding, like she gets like pulled under. That was me like bracing my neck.
You
up,
realize
and
on a
she-
podcast when people only have audio, you doing weird faces does not come across. It just sounds like weird sound effects.
So she feels a little
Ding.
tug, and then she gets pulled under a little bit, and she starts screaming, and then she starts getting thrashed around because it's a shark, right? Shark's got her in her mouth. But what freaks me out about this scene is that the screams are real. I'm sure we'll touch upon that later, but
I actually didn't research that.
oh, okay.
There are a few things. There's definitely a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that I've heard, like urban legends, or I've heard stories that I wanted to try and verify.
Yeah.
I didn't verify that.
Okay, but I've
Um,
heard that the screams are real because, like, the contraption she was on, like, literally broke her hip or something, so she was screaming, like, help me, and in actual pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I know in Jurassic Park, Rexy was wet, and so they weren't expecting that weight. So when it goes through like the plexiglass, those
Oh.
kids' screams, that's definitely real. Like they were not expecting that or like that speed because it was weighted down with the water.
Mm.
So it's quite possible. If you guys know, let us know. Now I've like got to check it out later. But
Yeah.
anyway.
So she's screaming, and she's screaming, thrashing all around, and then she just, bloop, no more. She's under the water. She's gone, right?
And is drunk guy like there all night?
yeah,
Did
he just
like
passed out.
Yeah.
And then wakes up the next morning and can't find her, right? There, she's a missing body. And he's like, yeah, man, I don't know. I just like passed out on the beach.
I was sort of passed out.
And so we meet our hero, our main character, Brody.
Chief Brody.
who is new to this town, the island. He's a new chief in command.
Chief in command is not a title.
They're searching for the girl on the beach, and they can't seem to find her. And then finally, he hears whistles, and he goes over to the sound, and it's another police officer who found the body, and there's like a bunch of crabs in it and stuff, and
which is my favorite detail. Like, I feel like a lot of like movies would be like, oh, we found a body on the beach, but like you can see like there's all these like crabs that have clearly
like trying
gotten
to eat it.
gotten into it, and I was like, that to me is creepy because it's so realistic in detail.
For
like
sure.
It's not something that I feel like that's something that like someone saw and was like, hey guys, if there was a body on the beach, there'd be a bunch of like creatures eating it.
It's true.
And I was like, that weirds me out.
Yeah.
Because I don't even think you really see the body. You just see a bunch of like crabs and like.
And like some like bone. Well, you see like a hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so they discover that it or they think it's a shark, right? And he goes home to his family. He's telling about the girl to his wife and stuff, and they have this gorgeous house right on the beach, like prime real estate. I would love to live there. And he's like, yeah, I think there's a shark in the water. Get the kids out of the boat, because they bought one of their sons this little sailboat. Anyway, so fast forward, he's telling the mayor, like, hey, like, this girl died. We need to close the beaches while we're doing research to find if this is a shark and if we need to kill it. And the mayor's like, psh, nah, we'd be all right.
Well, because
it's, it's the 4th of July weekend. It's a huge... Is it 4th of July weekend?
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, did I just make that up?
No, that's
the
why
whole
we
reason
watch
why
it.
we watch it. So he's like, we need all the tourists, because we are a tourist town who we throw this big event and people all come to see it for us, and we spend time at our beaches and whatnot. This is like what our town does. We need the money, because without this event, like, we don't have money any other time of year, right? This is like our big deal. So we need all the people we can get. And Chief Brody's like, yeah, but there's a shark that ate a girl. And the mayor's like, man, we be all right. So they go to the beach. People are doing their normal thing in the water. Everything's just fine. And then, is this the dog gets eaten? No.
Yeah, so
Yeah, the dog gets eaten.
It's like implied that a dog gets eaten. And then there's
and then the boy.
Yeah, which is like the blood.
Yes, it's
like,
a really cool scene. Yeah, so he's on like a raft, right?
I don't remember if it's a raft, but yeah.
So anyway, so this there's a bunch of people in the water, right? And a dog gets eaten, and then this little boy gets eaten, and Chief Brody sees it, like, it's right in front of him. There's this great shot of it, like, zooming in on him. It's a fabulous shot, and you can see like the blood squirting everywhere. And so he's like, get out of the water, get out of the water. Everyone's getting out of the water, panicking. Or there's this one woman just holding her child in the water, screaming, like, not moving. She's like, ah! And anyway, I was just like, but why?
Do you talk about the woman or the child?
No, it's the woman. She's just like holding her child, standing there screaming. And
I thought
like,
you meant the scene later where there's just the kid like crying on the beach.
Oh,
yeah,
that makes me so upset.
Yeah, I was
especially
like,
as a mom. I'm like,
yeah.
So anyway, so everyone gets out of the water, and this woman, who is definitely way too old to have the son that she does, because he was like 8 and this woman's like 50, but whatever.
Yeah, it's very weirdly cast.
Very weird.
Like this, it almost seems like this was like a grandmother that like was there some sort of like foster situation? Because this woman,
she is older.
If she produced a child like 8 years ago, good Lord.
I know.
And then the father too that they show is like in
90.
this scene. Yeah, like so very old parents of this child that's passed away.
Yeah. So she's looking for her son, and of course he's nowhere to be found, and he's the one who's gotten eaten. And then the shark goes over to the pond, right? That's the same.
No, this is where then she slaps Chief Brody because she's
the next
like,
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so they go. Well, they have a shark hunt, right? And they think they found a shark, which is a tiger shark. So they say, but it didn't really look like a tiger shark.
I think you're like jumping ahead, because there's the meeting. There's the meeting where she slaps Chief Brody, being like, "You knew there was a shark.
Yes.
You didn't close these beaches."
Yes.
And then he calls in an ichthyologist, Hooper.
Yes. Hooper.
Hoopa. But like while they're having the meeting, Quint, who is maybe the greatest character on film, like does like the scratch on the chalkboard.
Yes,
And he's like,
I
"I'll
hate
catch a
that.
shark for you."
I hate that so much. Yeah.
And then Hooper arrives, and I think he's trying to find Brody, and then
Okay, but then
that's when they start doing the shark hunt.
Okay, and then they kill a shark, but it's not the shark. It's just like they say it's a tiger shark.
Yeah.
Quint is like, nah, that's not.
No.
Not Quint. Hooper, sorry, is like, no, that's not the shark.
Which has the greatest, the greatest line. My favorite one, where he's like,
It's a wand?
That's a tiger shark. A what?
Tiger shark. A what?
And like this man's delivery is so wonderful. Like as if like tiger shark was such a foreign word to him. Like, a what?
A what?
Anyway, so it's not the right shark.
Well, the mayor's happy. He's like, oh, all right,
yeah.
we caught the shark. We can, so now we can keep going.
Yeah, but Chief Brody and the marine biologists are like, nah, but that wasn't it. You just killed a shark. Like, way to go. Also, you're in the ecosystem, but that's great.
Then Hooper's like, I just want to prove it's the shark. Clearly there would be human remains. Can we just dissect the shark? And the mayor's like, I'm not going to have you like open this shark in public and have like a little boy's remains spill out, which is a fair, like,
that's fair.
The mayor is a terrible individual. And in the book, he's even worse. And I can't wait to get to that. But he does have a valid point there. Like, if this was the real shark, like, this is not the place that you want to be doing a dissection.
Yeah. Anyway, so fast forward, Hooper and Chief Brody are on a boat at night.
Well, because
another boat went under.
No, because
right?
they dissect it and realize.
Oh yeah, that it's not the shark. So in the meantime, though, there's a boat in the ocean that randomly like gets attacked by Jaws.
It was one of the. I think it's like the guy that's hanging out with the what? Like it's like one of those guys that like Hooper first meets, and he goes, "You're all gonna die."
Yeah, they're all gonna die.
Yes.
And then the guy later
dies.
Is like, and I think that might be the first. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That might be the first jump scare in like the history of film when like the head like floats up.
Yeah,
and they do like the
that
musical
part.
sting.
It's good.
Yeah,
I don't think so. What about like Psycho?
Like a jump scare.
Oh, okay, maybe you're right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I remember apparently like Jaws jump scares. Like there's one like in each Jaws movie, and that's a very famous scene. But Hooper like has a tooth from Bruce.
Yeah.
And then like loses it because
Jaws. We didn't touch upon that. His name is Bruce.
Brucey.
Anyway, so they're like, hey, it's a great white. Like I've got this giant ass tooth. It's clearly a great white shark, and the mayor's still like, yeah, but we're still gonna...
No, the bear's like, okay, where's the tooth?
Where is that tooth?
Oh, yeah, and then he's like, oh, I dropped it, because a head popped out at me, and I screamed and dropped my flashlight. Anyway, so the mayor's still just like, we're gonna keep going with the 4th of July event, because money.
Because at that point...
Mr. Krabs. Money.
he was eating on the beach...
Anyway,
but yeah, at this point, it is now like those were all the days leading up to 4th of July weekend. Like now it's like this is like Saturday,
creme de la
Sunday,
creme.
yeah,
literally boats and boats and boats of people, like all the ferries coming in with thousands of people. Which why would you even want to go to the beach when it's that crowded?
Yeah,
it sounds awful to me.
Yeah. But they do some extra preparations, like so the mayor is like, you know what, fine, like we'll have like a bunch of like boats and like there's like. Is there like a helicopter?
Yeah.
There's like, they're like ready to the teeth. They're all like, and so it does seem kind of safe to a degree.
And then they think they see a shark because they see some fins and stuff, but it's just some kids who made a little cardboard fin. Jerks. They should be arrested for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or eaten.
Oh my goodness. But then like while everybody's distracted, then like
the shark actually does show up.
But it's this terrible actress who's like, shark!
Oh, yeah.
It's a shark! Like, I'm like, you're not even, like, trying here, honey. Like...
Does anyone get eaten in this one?
Yeah, and then, so there's an estuary where one of Chief Brody's sons is.
Yeah,
on
in the
that
pond.
little boat.
Oh yeah, and then the guy coming to swim over and be like, "Hey, there's a shark," gets eaten by the shark.
Yeah, like I think he gets like his like leg bitten off, and
Well, what I didn't understand is, so the shark knocks over the little pontoon that the Chief Brody's kids are on, right?
sure.
And apparently the other boat. But like, when does that happen? It just shows both of them like just being knocked over at the same time. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I'd have to rewatch it. I mean, it's a big shark. Maybe it's just that long. It's knocking over boats at the same time.
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the guy dies.
Yes.
Yes. And then they
And
think
then-
that the son is like got hurt or whatnot, but he was just in shock and he's all right.
Yeah.
But now Chief Brody's like, "This is personal."
Now you've messed with my kid.
So he and Chief Brody's like not a big fan of the water to begin with.
Which is great. Like I love that dynamic that like he has a fear of water, so it adds to that psychological nature. Like he won't get in the water because he's afraid, but he's forced to face this dynamic force that like only exists in the water. So it's like doubly against him, which is it's great writing, it's great directing, such a good film.
Yes. So anyway, fast forward, Quint, who's got all the shark jaws and just cooks them up.
Yeah,
He's
I
like,
don't
"Hey,
know what
fresh
his
shark jaws, here's your shark jaws."
He's just I don't know what he's like pulling them out of, but he's like cooking them
Just
like
a
it's a
pot.
stew. Like
Yeah.
he's like, we got some hoopa, we got some jaws here.
Yeah. So anyway, so they get on a boat, they being Hooper, Quint, and Chief Brody, and they're gonna kill the great white shark all together, and they're bonding, they're drinking. They don't really, get too much shark activity.
Well, because Brody's throwing chum in the water. If you're not familiar with what is chum,
Chum is guts, fish,
yeah,
chopped up fish.
bloody is
It's
just
fish.
anything to attract a
Yeah.
shark.
Which sharks are like the vacuum cleaners of the ocean, so they're going to go after the fish that are sick and dying.
Yeah.
That's like their part, so that's why sharks are so important. Anyway, side tangent. So
We could talk about your love of sharks later.
So they're not getting much action, so they're all drinking and stuff, and tell me I want to go home. My song.
The famous
Yeah.
Indianapolis
I'm tired and I
monologue.
want to go to bed.
Ba-da-da-da.
Once they're all like a little loopy and stuff, then the shark is like, "All right, guys, I'm gonna mess your boat up."
Well, because earlier they had harpooned and they had gotten at least one barrel.
Oh yeah, they did barrel him.
They-
They tagged him with a barrel.
Yeah, so like I don't fully, because I'm not a fisherman. I'm not really sure like whether they were just trying to kill or catch it, because he has like a rod. Like Quint has a rod, and at one point like it seems like he's kind of like reeling them, but they like harpoon Jaws.
Yeah, because I think they wanted to get him, and that's why he says you're gonna need a bigger boat because this thing is massive.
Yeah, but then like
That is
during,
a great scene when he just turns around and the shark's like, "Hello."
He's just like out of the water.
Yeah.
But like during the Indianapolis monologue, like one of the barrels just like ominously like floats up, and
yeah.
you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. So then the shark is attacking the boat, which would never happen. Okay.
We'll go into the realism of
So
sharks.
he's attacking and whatnot, and Hooper's like, "All right, well, we gotta kill this shark, so I'm gonna poison it
Yeah.
with the stuff I have, but I need to go in a shark cage to get that close and then shoot it into its mouth." So he goes into the shark cage to do
Does he
that.
need to shoot it in the mouth? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
That's oddly specific.
So silly. But all right.
From a thematic standpoint, like it is clever because you have like literally the movie is named Jaws. Quint is, cooking up Jaws. Him needing to shoot it in the mouth does thematically make sense. I don't know if scientifically that just seems a little weird, but I'll go with it.
Okay, so he's in the cage, and then the shark comes and messes up the cage a bit, right?
Yeah, because it's supposed to be like a state-of-the-art cage, and Jaws is just like
Which they
chomp,
just
chomp,
like
chomp.
fold together. It's like a fair ride. They're just like, like
fine.
just put it together, and it's like, yeah, this will be fine.
Nah, it's fine.
And so Hooper's stuck in the water, right? And then the boat's still being attacked, and then this is where Quint dies.
Yeah, so
Pretty epic.
I think
Big
they had a few more like barrels in them. I don't remember like how, but like Jaws has like has started
like
to sink the boat.
Yeah, and then
So-
he's like going up the boat, like nom nom,
Yeah,
like Pac-Man style up
It's
the boat.
It's like Titanic, like at a diagonal, and like Jaws is just at the bottom, like nom 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 nom.
and then
nom.
Quint like falls into. He's like, ah! Then he gets chomped.
Aw.
Yeah, and then where's Hooper during this? He's just in the water chilling.
I would be just scared out of my life, trying not to die.
Like I forget. Like how does he get out of the water?
Because he's got scuba gear.
Yeah.
And so I believe he's like
just
hiding
down there watching this massacre.
Well, I would. I'd be like, go ahead. Go for it.
You wouldn't be in the water to begin with.
There you go. I'm Chief Brody.
So then, anyway, Chief Brody, the boat is like continuing to sink,
Yeah.
and Jaws is like attacking the side. He's like going in through the glass. It's crazy. Like this, it's absolutely insane. So then, Chief Brody throws an oxygen tank at the shark. It's like tries to like hit him with it, and then he ends up throwing it in his mouth.
Yeah.
And the shark backs away for a second, and then Chief Brody climbs up on the, I don't know what it's called, like the pole,
The mast.
the lookout pole thing.
It's kind of like a mast.
Yeah. So he climbs up on that. He's got a gun and a harpoon, and the shark's coming by, and he's like harpooning it. He's like poking all these holes in it, like I do when I'm trying to defrost something. That's what I literally thought of. I was like, it's a potato. Anyway, so he's poking all the holes in the shark, and that's not happening. And so then he starts shooting the shark, and meantime, like, he's just sinking down. It's like
It's a
that
great
scene
moment.
in Pirates of the Caribbean where
Oh, where he just,
Johnny
like,
Depp's
yeah.
writing it in. That's literally what it's like.
Just
He's
bwomp,
just
bwomp.
sinking into the water, and then finally he shoots the oxygen tank in
Well, no,
Jaws'
but it's
mouth.
like super dramatic because, like, you know,
Oh,
he's
yeah,
like
and he's
firing
like,
the rifle.
Die, you son of a bitch, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and then he shoots it, and there's a big explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great end.
And then I was literally trying to think, like, how does he get back to shore? How does Hooper get back to
Nope.
shore? Like,
Happily
he
ever
would have had to
after.
swim. He can't just like the boat
The
is sunk.
end.
Like,
It's
did he just wait there until someone came? There's other sharks in the
all
water.
good.
So yeah, so that is the end of Jaws.
So, wonderful film. I'm sure many people feel that way. I do want to talk, you know, our next section is reviewing it. So, you know, 1 out of 10 sharks. How many sharks would you give Jaws?
10.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. You know, the more that we have seen this over the years, like the more I've come to appreciate, there's a lot of beautiful, subtle character moments. Like I love, I think there's like a point when like the romance with Chief Brody and his wife,
Oh,
where I
they're
think
great.
she's like you want to get drunk and fool around. Like there's just wonderful like moments that like in a movie nowadays would probably be edited out because like it doesn't do anything. It doesn't move the plot forward, but it's like it's a great little character moment, and there's a lot of like tiny details that I've just grown to love, and it's interesting. I haven't read the book, but having read about the book and the differences, and we'll get to that in a bit. But before we do, have you ever seen any of the sequels?
Yeah, we've watched them all together.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, we have.
No, we haven't. That's why.
Okay,
Okay.
well, we've watched the second one together.
I don't think we got all the way. I don't think I've seen all the way through 2.
Okay,
I
well,
remember-
I've seen them all.
I remember watching 3 because we watched it because it was filmed in SeaWorld Orlando.
Yes, it's so great.
And you worked at
I
SeaWorld, so
did.
you were like, that's not there. That doesn't lead into the ocean. What's going on there?
Yes, essentially.
But I don't think I've ever seen Jaws: The Revenge.
I don't know if I have.
Okay, so yeah, you haven't seen all the sequels. So
Okay, well then we'll watch it.
maybe, if
It is Shark Week.
it is Shark Week, maybe we'll get to some of those. But I'm also curious on some other people's thoughts. Is it worth watching some of the others, or maybe you just let sleeping dogs lie and enjoy Jaws?
What's that other shark movie?
Deep Blue Sea?
Deep Blue Sea? Yeah, we've watched that one together.
Yeah,
You actually showed it to me for the first time.
I know we watched Meg, which I think I want to do one on Meg and Megalodon because that was just hilarious.
And then did you watch 42 Meters Under? or
yeah,
whatever
that
it
was
called
that
with
was
me?
creepy.
I loved it.
That was a psychological
I
one. But
really enjoyed that.
anyway, we're going to move on to our next section, which is Behind the Screams.
I didn't scream this
I
time.
was
'cause
waiting
you
for
yelled
I
at me
was
last time.
waiting for you to do it. I literally
the urge was there, and I didn't do it. I'm
Okay.
proud of me.
Yay, I'm so happy. So, obviously, this is, maybe not obviously, this is based on a book. The book was published in 1974. It was by Peter Benchley. And have you seen the original cover?
The OG cover? Nah.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to try and describe this in a way that is safe for work. It's very similar to the classic poster, which has like the girl swimming and like the jaws.
Okay.
However, the shark looks like a gray phallic tip with a frown. It does not look like a shark. It's really interesting looking. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll make sure I have the image. If not, look it up yourself.
I don't think it's as bad as you say.
It looks really weird. But
it
anyway,
doesn't have any teeth though. It's just like
it's just like a
gumless
weird frown.
It's a gummy shark.
So for the paperback, it was recommissioned, and that same artwork is what you see in like the classic poster. There's a lot obviously that's cut from books.
I want to read it now.
So it's interesting. So the mayor, who I tried to defend a little bit, in the book he has ties to the mafia.
What?
And it's actually like the mafia that's pressing him to keep the beaches open, which I don't know if I like that they cut that out or not. I think that gives the mayor both more villainy and less agency, but I thought that was an interesting change. One change I'm really glad that they didn't do is Ellen Brody, Mrs. Brody, legit straight up has an affair with Matt Hooper. So she had she had this like very affluent lifestyle, and she's like missing that, and she's like longing for time like before having kids and moving to Amity. And I think she used to date Matt Hooper's brother. And so like Matt Hooper comes in town, who I maybe looked a little bit more dashing than Richard Dreyfuss in the book. And they like repeatedly have an affair. So that's like there's a lot of like subtext and like aggression between Brody and Hooper because he's suspecting there's an affair.
Dang.
Yeah.
Also, I'm looking at all these different book covers, and they like 90% of them have a naked woman.
Yeah. That's what sells. Other weird things in the book that I found. This is a little disturbing. Is one thing that Hooper gets upset with Quint about is while they're trying to track down Bruce, Jaws, whatever you want to call him, Quint uses an illegally caught baby dolphin as bait. And I have a lot of questions. One, is there a way to legally catch baby dolphins?
My face right now. My jaw is on the floor.
Yeah.
What?
I thought that was a really dark, unnecessary thing that I'm glad that they did not include, because it's like...
I would have... No.
Yeah. Bruce is a lot... not a lot smaller. Bruce is only 20 feet long in the book.
Which is about average for great white sharks.
And yeah, and we'll get to the size. But, so, the story of Bruce. What story have you heard of why the shark is called Bruce?
I don't know. Some producer?
So the story that I remember hearing is that Steven Spielberg was going through a divorce at the time, and his wife's lawyer was just... Bruce. Yeah, like... was a total jerk. He was named Bruce, so like Spielberg was like, yeah, forget that guy, I'm gonna name my shark, because lawyers are like sharks, so I'm gonna name him Bruce. And then I later heard that it was like an accountant that like didn't ever like do anything or work, and because the shark constantly wasn't working, they were like, yeah, it's like Bruce over there.
Oh my god.
None of those are true.
Oh.
Well, the actual true story is it's named after Bruce. I think his name is Raymer. Mm-hmm. He is a real life attorney. He's actually a friend and he was the friend and attorney of Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
And the crew just kind of called the shark that because attorneys can be like sharks, but there's no animosity. that's the real story is actually a little less interesting than some of the ones that I heard. So I was like, oh, okay. So if you hear the shark, the original shark referred to as Bruce, that's why.
And even like, I will say, I mean, now looking at the animatronic, I'm not like, oh my god, that's so realistic looking. But filming this, if I was in it, like that would freak me out.
Well, yeah, like I said,
it would
like
really freak me out. Like I wouldn't want to be in its mouth. Like I don't like animatronics to begin with, and then you add water animatronics. There's literally a fear of water animatronics. I forget what it's called. I will look it up later, but it is a thing, and I totally have it. I do not like water animatronics.
That is a very specific phobia.
Blech.
So a couple other differences. Hooper is actually killed. He's eaten by Bruce in the shark cage in the book, and the way Bruce dies is, I'm not gonna say anticlimactic because I haven't read the book, but pretty much Quint repeatedly harpoons him. He isn't eaten alive dramatically like he is in the movie. Instead, like he harpoons, and one of the ropes that are attached to the harpoons wraps around his foot and drags him in the water, and he drowns.
Oh, jeez.
So, Hooper's dead. He's been eaten. Quint has drowned. Brody's still on the sinking ship, and he's like making peace because like Bruce is just coming in.
I don't think I could make peace that I was gonna get eaten by a shark.
And then Bruce just dies.
Bruce dies?
He just like right before he eats Brody. Like
in the book?
Yeah. There's no dramatic explosion.
He just has a heart attack?
Well, he succumbs to all like the harpoon wounds. It's it's just I feel like if I was reading that, like I'd be like, he's dead. Oh, are you sure?
I found what my fear is called.
Okay, what's it called?
Submechnophobia.
Okay,
it is a thing.
I mean, I didn't doubt you.
Yeah.
Let us know if you have submechnophobia like Heidi.
Ugh, like that Monster House ride at Six Flags Over Georgia literally freaks me the F out. Bleh, I hate it.
Anyway, so it's really interesting how the movie was made because pretty much before it was even published, two producers managed to get a copy. They read it in like one night and were like, we love this. We want to make this a movie. Let's do it. So they actually purchased the film rights in 1973, a year before it was actually published, and then it came out in 1975. What's crazy to me is, I think we all know now Steven Spielberg is, has definitely had brilliant moments. I'm not going to say everything he's ever done, but he's a very, very talented director. Do you know how old he was when he did this?
21.
26.
I was close.
But imagine being like 26 and directing the first ever summer blockbuster, like a movie of this scope, like doing things that have never been done before. Like my level of respect for him, I thought he was like, I don't know, like mid-30s when he did this. Like,
that's awesome.
Because up until this point, he had directed like some television episodes. They had him direct 4 like television movies. He had only done one actual theatrical credit, which was the Sugarland Express, and I don't believe that movie had even come out before he got this job.
Gotcha.
And there were a couple other directors that like were considered, but obviously they did not get it, and it probably would have been a very different Jaws. But I also want to talk about Robert Shaw, who is Quint.
Okay.
Quint, I love him. So
wasn't he like actually drunk and high?
I would. That's the story I was about to say. So not only is he an actor, he was also a novelist, a playwright. He rewrote part of that U.S.S. Indianapolis monologue that he does. And so in an interview in 2011 with Entertainment Weekly, Spielberg was talking about, pretty much Shaw came up to him and was like, I'm thinking, Steven, I should have a few drinks, before I do this scene. It'll really like, make my character good. And so like Spielberg, this 26-year-old is like, yeah, okay, go ahead. So, Spielberg said, we shot it twice, as in the scene. The first time we attempted to shoot it, Robert came over to me and said, "You know, Stephen, all 3 of these characters have been drinking, and I think I could do a much better job in this speech if you actually let me have a few drinks before I do the speech." And I unwisely gave him permission, Spielberg recalled. I guess he had more than a few drinks because 2 crew members actually had to carry him onto the Orca, help him into his chair. I had 2 cameras on the scene, and we never got through the scene. He was just too far gone, so I wrapped. So then at 2 o'clock in the morning, Shaw calls up apologizing to Spielberg because he was blackout drunk, and he actually showed up at 7:30 the next day in full makeup, fully lucid, and did the scene that you saw, that you see. I don't think they were able to use any of...
I'm just
I would say, Hoopa, I gotta do Indianapolis.
What?
So...
That's fun.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to...
The truth.
Much as you try to bury it, the truth is out there.
So let's talk about... there's 3, I would say, real big inspirations for Jaws, the book and the movie.
Okay.
There's Quint,
Mm-hmm.
the person behind Quint.
Mm-hmm.
There is the real story of the U.S.S. Indianapolis.
Okay.
And then there were the New Jersey shark attacks.
Yes.
Do you know about them?
Somewhat.
Okay. So,
Not enough to give information.
Well, that's what we're here for. So the inspiration behind Quint is said to be a man called Frank Mundus. He was a real fisherman and a captain based out of Montauk, New York. Mundus discovered pretty much that bluefish weren't really plentiful in Montauk.
Okay.
So, and sharks were. So he started this business called monster fishing. He famously harpooned a allegedly 4,500-pound great white, which really bolstered his reputation. He was a very eccentric fellow.
It's got to be Quint.
This collection of
Colorful, isn't it?
35.
He would color his big toenails red and green, like port and starboard lights.
Okay.
He wore a big hoop earring.
Hey-o.
Hoopa. He had an Australian like slouch hat.
Mm-hmm.
And he would wear a shark tooth necklace. So he was just very big personality, very big showman, real fisherman.
Yeah, but why did he kill a shark?
Because
It's not like they were gonna eat it.
Unfortunately, there are people that will pay money for that experience. But that's the real inspiration behind Quint. And Quint's famous U.S.S. Indianapolis story is pretty terrifying. So I will say, moving forward, a little bit of a content warning. We're going to be talking about shark attacks. We're going to be talking about potentially some gory stuff. So if that can be upsetting to you, I just want to kind of put this out there. So the U.S.S. Indianapolis, for those of you who don't know, it was a boat in World War II that was carrying the uranium and parts for the atomic bomb that would be dropped on Hiroshima.
Mm-hmm.
Later, after they had delivered all that, they were struck by 2 torpedoes, and Quint mentions this.
Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief.
But the Navy didn't know the ship was sinking until 3.5 days later.
Jeez.
So Quint says...
1,100 men went into the water.
But in actuality, of the 1,196 men aboard, only about roughly 900 made it into the water alive. So quite a few had actually been killed by those torpedo impacts. So a little bit of an exaggeration.
I think I'd rather die first than drown.
Especially if you start to hear, unfortunately, what a lot of these men endured. So Quint describes that they were tiger sharks. But in actuality, when you're in that far, like in the ocean, it's oceanic white tips that are very aggressive and they live in open water. So it was probably oceanic white tip sharks that were actually the ones that were having this feast. So the first night, the sharks focused on the floating dead. They were initially drawn by the explosion, thrashing in the water, and the blood.
Makes sense. I told you they clean the ocean.
The next day, the more the sailors struggled, the more the sharks preyed.
Makes sense.
Those bleeding became easy targets. If a fisherman was injured, they would actually quarantine themselves from the group, and dead bodies would be pushed away. Many people couldn't or wouldn't eat out of fear. One group actually opened a can of Spam, and before they could even eat it, the sharks swarmed them, and they had to rid themselves of it before they became the victims themselves.
So, like, what are they floating on? I'm so confused. Are they just...
I'm not sure. They probably, I mean, they were, sailors. They probably had, like, life vests.
I'll never put on a life jacket again.
There was probably, flotsam and jetsam, like, parts that they could, like, hold on to. But they tried to group themselves together to, look like a bigger number. Unless, of course, people start to get injured. That injured person.
Like, bye.
Yeah. So Navy intelligence had gotten a signal of the sinking of the Indianapolis, but they figured it was just some ploy by the Japanese, so they disregarded it.
Wow.
Those that survived the sharks starved, they died of thirst, or they were driven into hallucinations, compelling them to drink seawater, leading to salt poisoning.
Yep.
Those who drank the seawater would foam at the mouth
Jeez.
as their tongues and lips swelled, frantically pulling others down to the ocean depths to meet the sharks circling below. Only 317 were rescued. There are estimates that go as high as that there were 150 victims of lethal shark attacks.
Dang.
So that is believed to be the largest shark attack in history.
That's crazy.
A lot of what that monologue is pretty true, except for they weren't tiger sharks. The numbers are a little, but yeah, that terrifying and realism that Quint gives, or Robert Shaw gives, is absolutely amazing. It's one of my favorite moments. And the other big inspiration happens actually back in 1916, which to me, how far does that feel?
Along, like...
Okay, I guess
I know it seems like forever.
No. Like, my mind is perpetually like 1995 was like 2 years ago. So I'm like 1916, like, oh, that was like 80 years ago. It was 105 years ago.
That is a truth fact.
Which is just crazy to me. But anyway, so there were a series of shark attacks that occurred along the coast of New Jersey.
And it happened before. The Jersey Beach.
1916, there were five people chewed up in the surf.
In 1 week.
Tell them about the swimmers.
So what's interesting is Jaws takes place between June 28th and July about 5th or 6th. And these shark attacks in New Jersey also happened from July 1st to July 12th.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of where some of that inspiration came from. So a couple of important things to remember, weirdly similar to now, there was a deadly summer heat wave going on in 1916.
Global warming.
There was a polio epidemic. And
coronavirus.
So many Americans, they were going to seaside resorts, to get away, to have a relaxing vacation. On Saturday, July 1st, at Beach Haven, New Jersey, Charles Epting Vincent was on vacation from Philadelphia. He was a young man of 28 and visiting with his family at Ingleside Hotel. So shortly before dinner, Charles decided he wanted to take a swim with their family Chesapeake Bay retriever, who was playing with him on the beach. Not long after entering the water, Vincent began screaming.
Oh, no.
Onlookers assumed he was calling for his dog. Below the surface, a shark had viciously bitten into Vincent's legs, thrashing him while he shouted for help.
What about the dog?
Dog was fine. A local lifeguard named Alexander Ott and a bystander, Sheridan Taylor, managed to wrangle Charles from the shark and get him on the shore. Vincent's left thigh had been stripped of its flesh, and Taylor claims the shark had actually followed the victim to the shore as they pulled him away.
Damn.
Vincent bled to death on the manager's desk at the Ingleside Hotel. So that, that initial scene of, I think her name is Christine, or that girl kind of thrashing in the water, definitely, has some remnants to this initial shark attack. Like Jaws, despite the attack, beaches remained open.
Hey, gotta get that money.
Several sea captains reported large sharks swimming along the coast, but they were all dismissed.
You're dismissed.
The second attack would occur on July 6, 1916. It was actually 45 miles north of the resort town and this town was called Spring Lake, New Jersey.
Okay.
So there was another swimmer named Charles. This time...
We're getting all the Charleses.
Because the sharks really, just if your name is Charles, maybe don't go in the water.
Or maybe do.
This time, he was actually a Swiss bell captain named Charles Bruder. He had also been the relatively young age of 27. He was staying at Essex and Sussex Hotel. Bruder happened to be swimming about 130 yards from the shore. Unprovoked, a shark bit him in the abdomen and then severed both his legs.
Yeah.
The Sian Sea suddenly shifted into a pool of blood. Bruder's death rattles were heard by a local woman who informed lifeguards that canoed with a red hull. While attempting to save Bruder, his dismembered body quickly bled to death before arriving to shore.
Jeez.
Yes. So, almost as if some sinister shark was deliberately making his way north, the next two victims happened again farther north. These both happened at Matawan Creek near Keyport, New Jersey. This is actually 30 miles north of the previous town.
Okay.
On Wednesday, July 12th, Matawan was more actually like a Midwestern town than it was like a New England resort. So don't think of kind of Amity. This is, more little, kind of smaller Midwestern.
Mm-hmm.
So the interactions with sharks and humans really were limited. So no one really minded that there was a shark reported by a sea captain, Thomas Cottrell. He actually spotted an 8-foot-long shark in the creek.
In a creek?
And they were just like, nah, it's fine. So on that Wednesday at 2 p.m., a group of young local boys, including Lester Sitwell, who was merely 11 years old, were innocently playing in a creek. The water was very murky, as most Midwestern creeks can be, and one of the boys had brought their dog, which had been swimming with them. They called the area Winnock and saw what appeared to be a old black weather-beaten board or a weathered log.
Okay.
Stillwell, capricious and enjoying his time in the creek, didn't recognize the dorsal fin, which immediately pulled him under.
Oh, jeez.
Locals flocked to find Sitwell, among them Watson Stanley Fisher, 24 years old. They believed the young man had suffered a seizure. So they didn't know it was a shark attack at this point. They thought this 11-year-old had just had a seizure and fallen under the water. So they're looking. And when they found the 11-year-old boy's body, Fisher himself had also been bitten.
Oh, jeez.
His right thigh was severed, and he would later bleed to death in Monmouth Memorial Hospital at Long Beach at 5:30 p.m. Now, not a half mile from Wickock Dock, nearly 30 minutes after the fatal attacks of Sitwell and Fisher, there was a 14-year-old boy named Joseph Dunn of New York City who also got attacked.
Jeez.
The shark bit Dunn's left leg, but luckily he was rescued by his brother and friend after a tug of war with the shark.
Oh, jeez.
He did eventually recover and was released on September 15th. So really only one happy ending, and I'm sure, that experience was absolutely terrifying and very rough. But I guess I want to mention, talk a few things with you. One, why do you think sharks, because you know a lot more about sharks, why would they attack those individuals?
Okay, so sharks in general, well, first off, it depends on the species of shark. So just like there are some humans out there that are maybe more manly, testosterone-y, there are sharks that have a higher level of testosterone, so they're known to be a little bit more aggressive, like bull sharks, great whites, and tiger sharks. Those are three of the more aggressive breeds, if you will. With that being said, when humans are swimming in the water, we do simulate a very similar pattern to a seal or a sea lion would, with the flapping of the water and whatnot. And that's typically, especially for great whites, that's what they go after.
A shark is attracted to the exact kind of splashing and activity that occurs whenever human beings go in swimming. You cannot avoid it.
Seals.
So, yes. So, especially when surfers are on a board, they're paddling along, you look just like a seal would.
Because they attack from underneath, right?
They do, yes. So, That's one of the reasons humans get attacked, and sharks, unlike you and I, they don't have hands, right? So they can't be like, oh, let me grab this and see what it is. They grab with their teeth. So
It's just like, I'm going to put it in my mouth.
yeah, so they take a bite and they're like, oh, wait, that's not what I like. And then they let it go. It's not like they, like, eat humans. That's not really a thing.
Mm-hmm.
They attack humans, but it's not, oh, yum, let me keep eating this, because it's not their normal food source.
Which is interesting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because they're attracted to blood, and like, I mean, I guess it's kind of like, you know, there are people who like chicken but not pork. So it's like, you know, it's like, oh, well, I'm not interested in that, so I'm going to let that go because it doesn't taste normal.
Now, with stipulation, that being said, any hungry animal will eat whatever food resources are in the area. Like, if there's someone who's starving and is going to die, I'm sure they'll put past it being chicken or whatever and eat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that sharks have eaten people before completely, but it's never like, I mean, not that they have a thought process to be like, oh, this is a human, I shouldn't eat that.
Yeah.
You know, but typically, no, they don't go after them. So yeah, so like I said, so the splashing activity and whatnot, those all simulate a seal or even like injured fish, something splashing at the surface. That's usually something that's going to be sick or injured, which is what the sharks go after.
Yeah.
Because they're actually super important to help clean the ocean and get rid of the diseases and whatnot by eating those injured fish. So yeah, it's unfortunate that it happens because sharks are really, really cool. They're beautiful. They're definitely super, super important. But unfortunately, sometimes, you know, tragedies do happen.
Well, I was going to say what you probably have, and I don't know if other people have. Have you heard of like the rogue shark theory?
Mm-mm.
So like that there are sharks that go rogue, get a taste for human, and then therefore hunt humans. You've never heard that? It's like a big thing that they'll like do on like Shark Week.
Yeah, I know.
And to me, it sounds like just spectacular bunk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it sounds like sensationalized. Like, they are trying to make Jaws real when that's not how nature works. Predators tend to follow habits. So, it would make sense that they would want to eat the same thing and not be like, I've got a taste now for human. I enjoy this. I want to go after them.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know if you had kind of heard of rogue sharks at all.
No, not really. I've just kind of like ignored that. Also, why sharks are closer to like swimming areas is because of global warming. You know, sharks are going to want to go more towards that warmer area. In some of the more colder states where water is normally cold, it's suddenly warm, which is why you're seeing an uprise in this. So definitely happens. It could be their feeding grounds as well. So like in Australia, there's a certain part of Australia on the east coast where sharks are typically found. So that happens to be, unfortunately, sometimes a human area, if you will.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're going into their territory, not vice versa. So yeah, it's just, it is what it is. You take a risk when you get in the water every single time. I know it doesn't make you feel better because you're not a huge fan of the ocean.
Nope.
Like me, but yeah. Sharks are pretty chill for the most part. All right, so Devin, my question for you is, do you think great white sharks are the most dangerous shark?
I thought I remember you saying that bull sharks were more dangerous or had more testosterone.
So great whites, tiger sharks, and bull sharks all have a high level of testosterone.
Yeah.
So those three species are known to be the most aggressive. You'd actually be surprised on how many attacks there have been. So with the great white sharks, right?
Okay.
Non-fatal attacks. Guess how many?
I don't know.
Okay.
What is this?
Well, just a guess.
Based on what and from?
Okay.
Like
so
when?
According to the Florida Museum International Shark Attack File, based on data collected since 1580, so that's a long time. Lots
So
of
like
data.
great white sharks from like 1580? I don't know, like 10,000.
You would think, right?
Yeah.
So for great white sharks, there's been a total of 290 non-fatal attacks.
Oh, only 290?
Yes.
Okay. How many? Okay, so there's been a lot more fatal ones then.
52.
What?
That's it.
Oh my goodness. I feel like Shark Week is a complete lie.
A little bit. But tiger sharks,
Okay.
non-fatal, 97.
Oh, it's even less. I thought you were gonna say like great whites were like the third, and then it was only gonna go up from there. So tigers are even less.
Yep. So fatal attacks for tiger sharks, 34.
Okay.
For bull sharks now,
All right.
what you think are the most aggressive?
Yes. So this one's got to be. This is the top one.
So if great whites were 290, where do you think for non-fatal? What do you think for bull sharks?
I'm gonna say like I don't know 400.
92.
Oh, but there are a bunch of pansies.
Even less, and only 25 fatal attacks.
Since 1580?
Yes, and this is all according to the Florida Museum.
Okay.
Yes, so based off of that, you could say that great white sharks are the most dangerous, I guess, if you will. I mean, It makes sense. They're huge.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is like Jaws in the book, it's a 20-footer. In the movie, Richard Dreyfuss theorizes about a 25-footer, which is terrifyingly huge,
but realistic.
Is it really?
Yes. So I don't know off the top of my head the absolute longest great white shark, but I do know when I worked at the seas, we used to say that there was one recorded that was 27 feet, which is true. That's absolutely huge.
That's
27-foot great white shark.
Terrifying.
Yes, I know. So with all of those statistics being said, though, the oceanic whitetip is believed to be responsible for most of the castaway fatalities, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So they don't know. So there's a lot of data on like the top 3.
Yes.
But like if there's like, someone's in the middle, like a boat sinks at like the U.S.S. Indianapolis. So they don't
most likely to be an oceanic whitetip.
So they don't have quite as accurate data on maybe how many fatalities there are with that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm surprised on the actual size of a great white that they can get that large.
But I will say, even based off of that data, in like this past year alone, there have been a lot of shark attacks. I was actually just watching Shark Week. And there were 8 attacks in Australia last year.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Crazy.
And it's a lot of that's just kind of like human encroachment on their habitat or shifting like water climate. So
yep.
That's interesting. Well, I think all that's very fascinating. It's a little bit hard to do our last segment, which is I want to believe. Now I'm a believer. Because really these are based on facts. And I know the answer, but would you believe that Jaws would behave in any sort of manner, or Bruce?
Yes and no. So, do I believe that a shark could attack people and like terrorize the same area? Yeah.
Okay.
100%. Do I think that it'll start chomping through a boat?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Now, that being said, it's not going to say like it can't bite a surfboard or whatnot or bite into a boat, but it's not going to
He's like
Pac-Man
chomping
into it. Like, that's not what they do. Also, it would lose so many teeth in that process. Like, it'd be crazy. There'd be shark teeth everywhere if it was chomping through wood. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So let us know what you think. Let us know, if you think rogue sharks are a possible thing. I would say no. I don't believe that at all.
Probably not.
I think there's definitely some sensationalism to Jaws. I will say that the 1916 New Jersey attacks really is what brought...
That's pretty crazy, though.
Well, and that's really what brought a lot of that fear of shark attacks
Especially the one in the creek.
Shark hunting. Like, that came from that. Like, before that, like, people were like, there might be things in the water, but whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, there was, like, back to back to back, all these attacks, which brought a lot of that fear. And then Jaws, obviously, really has springboarded that, and from there you have things like
Sharknado.
Shark Week. I was gonna say Shark Week, which I think sometimes is good because there are some factual things you can learn, but there's definitely a vested interest.
Do megalodons still exist?
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
Like
no,
there's a vested interest in making sharks. Scary and a spectacle, and like, oh, you should be afraid to be in the water. And it's like, well, you should be cautious, you should be respectful, especially when you're in someone else's territory. But I don't personally believe in rogue sharks. I personally don't think I'll ever go in the water.
I was going to ask.
Again.
So, again, just you're done
Nope,
after this?
never again.
So, my question for you is, would you do a cage dive with a shark? Because I want to do one for our anniversary. I mean, that's a much more controlled environment.
So I had, when I was in my early 20s, I had a bucket list, and one of them was swim with sharks. And at
I know where you're going.
Yes, I know you do. So when I was working at Walt Disney World, there is a water park called Typhoon Lagoon, and there is a opportunity to swim with sharks.
No longer.
What type of shark were they? Okay, well,
they were tiny.
Let's put it this way. These things are like 12 inches long. Like, when you're saying, like, swim with sharks, like, I can say I checked off my bucket list. I swam with sharks. They are tiny little dogfish.
No, they were sharks.
They were certainly not,
I'm blanking on what kind.
But I was actually, believe it or not, because I'm not a big fan of water, like, it was intimidating for me. Like, even those little bitty things, like, I was like, okay, I just want to get through. So would I do a cage dive? You probably really have to convince me.
But there'd be no way for them to get to you.
That's what Matt Hooper thought, and then
but
Jaws
in
just
the
like
cage,
boom.
In the cage at a place where I work, there is no way for them to get to you because it's all acrylic. You're like literally in an acrylic box.
Still scary. Still maybe. My answer is maybe.
But you get to see hammerheads.
So would you swim with sharks?
Hell yeah! I want to do like the cage dive with the big boys. Like, I want a selfie with a great white shark.
Oh,
that is definitely on my bucket list.
How many types of shark have you swam with?
Well, the little itty bitties at Shark Reef, which I forget I can't believe I'm forgetting what kind they are. And then I've dove with sharks before, so sand tigers, just general like reef sharks.
Weren't there like zebra?
But I have swam with zebra sharks, sand tiger sharks, just like general reef sharks.
But you want to swim with a big
whites.
boy.
Yeah, well, it's tiger sharks, obviously. So when we do the cage dive, we will swim with great hammerheads, which are so beautiful.
Oh,
They're
yay.
so beautiful. I've also swam with bonnet heads, which are itty bitties. They're like miniature.
Like even
hammerheads.
smaller.
They're so tiny. No. They're like 2 to 3 feet.
Oh.
But yeah, I've swum with them. But yeah, no, we'll swim with tiger sharks, which is amazing. Great hammerheads and sand tigers. And I think we still have silver tips in there. Either silver tips or silkies. I'm not sure which are in there. But anyway, yes. And then I definitely want to do like a cage dive in the ocean with great whites. Oh, that'd be so cool. I would be terrified and I'd probably pee in my wetsuit, but it'd be so cool.
All right. My last question is, so what is your favorite type of shark?
You know, it used to be the mako because they're super, super fast. They're like the cheetahs of the ocean. But having seen them so close and personal of late, I really like the great hammerheads.
Yes!
They're so beautiful. They're so beautiful.
So for a while, I loved blue sharks, but I loved hammerheads. I didn't know that there were different types of hammerheads. Mm-hmm. There's how many different like species or subspecies? Like several. But like the big ones
great hammerheads, yeah.
are great hammerheads, and I really like hammerheads just because I think they're so unique. Like they're such weird animals that I'm just they're really cool. So let us know what your favorite shark is. No, they don't. Leave them alone. They look like weird little aliens. I love them like I love Mothman. Ugh. So let us know what your favorite shark is. Let us know, do you have a cool shark story? Have we made you more afraid of the ocean? Have we made you less afraid? We're very curious. Please, let us know if there's other episodes that you'd like to do. I've got a few definitely in mind coming up. We're going to try and keep releasing these regularly. We love hearing from you guys. We love doing this. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And we will catch you next time.
Nom nom.
Bye. My name is Devin.
My name is Heidi.
And thank you so much for joining us for Stranger Than Fiction.
Ta-ta.